To truly fight climate change, we need to talk about corporate accountability. To hold corporations accountable, we have to know what they emit. And when we try to check on the emissions of corporations, they'll usually just point to their factory's emissions and say, that's all of it. But a corporation's emissions usually look more like this. When a corporation makes a product or service, massive amounts of greenhouse gases are being emitted at each stage of the supply chain. We need to hold corporations accountable for the emissions they create at every step of this chain. SB 260 is a bill that would have large corporations report all greenhouse gases they emit. Because if our information is only this wide, corporations get to greenwash themselves and say, ooh, look at us, we're zero emissions and totally green and sustainable, please buy more of our thing. Meanwhile, their whole operation still looks like this. SB 260 accomplishes this by requiring large corporations that do business in California to disclose Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3 emissions. And do you not know what those are? Okay, hang tight. Okay, so real quick breakdown. Scope 1 emissions come directly from the factory of a corporation as it makes or does things. Scope 2 emissions come from the power plants that burn fossil fuels to generate the electricity that the factory uses. And Scope 3 emissions are everything else. The harvesting and transport of raw materials, transporting and distributing the finished product, and its use and end-of-life disposal. Okay, back to the bill. SB 260 would have companies report all emissions, Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3, holding them accountable for what they actually emit. SB 260 is being debated right now in the California legislature, so now is the time to call your assembly member and tell them that we need this bill.